Hello, Lake Central families. Thank you so much for taking the time to view the proposed changes to the Indiana High School Diploma. To give you some background information, on March 27th, the State Board of Education held a meeting. At that meeting, the Indiana Department of Education proposed making significant changes to the high school diploma. They are currently accepting feedback on the proposed changes. Then they will go back and make revisions based on that feedback, followed by a final feedback period, which will likely take place during the summer. We desperately need our teachers, counselors, administrators, parents, and community members to give feedback on these proposed changes. We need everyone to share what they feel may be beneficial about these changes, as well as what may be problematic for our students, parents, and staff. It is important to note that Indiana is the first state in the country to propose making such significant changes to its diploma. Therefore, there is no roadmap, and there is no other state for us to compare ourselves to. What they are proposing is dropping Indiana down to a two-diploma system. The first option would be the Indiana GPS Diploma, and the second option would be the Indiana GPS Diploma Plus. It's important to note that there also will still be an alternate diploma for our students with significant special needs. The Indiana GPS Diploma will have 3 requirements. The first is called a Flex 40, and we'll go through that momentarily. The second is demonstrating employability skills either through project-based, service-based, or work-based learning. And then the last part is demonstrating post-secondary ready competencies. This is similar to the layout that they've had in Indiana for the past few years since they implemented graduation pathways. However, in Component 3, it's important to note, given they are changing the diplomas, that there no longer is an option to use the Academic Honors Diploma or Technical Honors Diploma to check off Box 3 since they will no longer exist. And that's important to note because there are many students who did use those honors diplomas to check off Box 3. What they're proposing is breaking down the 40 credits that students have to earn into 2 different chunks, essentially. The first one will be for grades 9 and 10, and then the second set will be for grades 11 and 12. Another thing that's important to note about these plans is that they are going to be implemented starting with the class of 2029, which are our current 7th graders. That may sound like it's a far way away. However, those students are just a little over a year away from starting high school, which means we have to get all these plans in place in about a year for them to start their high school career. For their foundational knowledge and skills that they want students to demonstrate in grades 9 and 10, everything you see on the screen in gold is a course with credit tied to it. Everything you see in blue is something new called a competency. What the state is proposing is that students will also have to demonstrate competencies in addition to earning credits. For the first area, academic mastery, they want students to get 4 credits or 2 years each in English, math, and science. This is similar to what we've had in the past. What you'll note, though, is that there's a great deal more flexibility. For example, in math, the only required course is Algebra 1. And in science, there are no required courses such as biology. It simply says that they must choose classes from life or physical science. The next area is career and post-secondary readiness. All students would have to take preparing for college and careers. We have no issue with this requirement. What we do have concerns about are the competencies that are shown off to the side. Students with the proposed model would have to check off 3 of the 4 competencies shown. At Lake Central, it would be very easy for us to have all students take a career aptitude test. It also would be easy for us to have all of our students attend a college or job fair because we provide those every single year. What would be challenging for us and many other high schools is then having all students either do a job shadowing experience or take and pass a dual credit course. So in this area, we object to the number of competencies that the students have to check off. For communication and collaboration, students will use the same 4 credits that they're earning in English to meet this requirement. But then students must demonstrate 4 examples of communication and collaboration. What the state is suggesting on this slide is that 3 may be verified through coursework. However, they do not detail out what that coursework is. If it's writing a paper or giving a speech, that is something that would be easy for schools to manage. However, without guidance and knowing that those are acceptable, we find this one to be problematic. They also want one of these competencies to be verified externally. That means that the students would have to accomplish it outside of school. We also have a lot of concerns about this competency because that puts extra burden on families to have their student go out to some other organization and demonstrate that communication and collaboration and keep track of the fact that they've achieved it. Some of the examples they gave were leading a Boy or Girl Scout troop, being in a church youth group, volunteering at a community organization, or having a student-run business. It's not that we don't have students who do this, it's just that we have never required all 700 plus of our graduating class to do it during their high school career. The next area is work ethic. All students must earn 2 credits in this domain, and they can be satisfied through PE, health, or co- or extracurriculars. We have no objection to this plan. However, then to show work ethic, students have to choose 3 of the 6 competencies listed off to the side. Having 94% attendance. They do not provide any details on whether or not that is for a semester, a year, for grades 9 and 10, or for their entire 4-year high school career. Showing marked improved attendance. They gave no description of what exactly that entails. Participating in 2 seasons of a co-curricular. This one would not be so bad if it said a co or extracurricular, given we have many students who participate in that. Having a 3.0 GPA by the end of grade 10. While many of our students are able to meet that mark, there also are some students who struggle, especially during their 9th grade year as they're transitioning to high school. We feel that a 3.0 GPA is too high or too rigorous of a mark for our students in those beginning 9th and 10th grade years. An external paid job. We do have many students who have a job outside of school. However, some of those students wait until their 11th or 12th grade year when they're able to drive in order to get that. So we would need to know if there is flexibility for this to take place outside of grades 9 and 10. Or 1 external verification of the competency, but again, they give no description. We have a lot of concern about this because not only is it quite a bit for parents and students to have to track, but there isn't enough details given about the options for us to feel comfortable with them. The next area is civic, financial, and digital literacy. In this domain, they will have to take U.S. history, which is a full year course, government, which is a semester course, and personal financial responsibility, which is a semester course as well. We have no objection to those classes. Those are classes that our students typically would take. New, though, they all have to take computer science. If we were able to offer computer science at the middle school level, we would be able to do this. But currently, we and probably many other high schools are not staffed to have all of their students go through a computer science class. That is a very hard area to find a teacher in. On top of those classes, students must also show another competency. So for civic literacy, they gave the example of We the People, being an election poll worker, or serving as a State House page. All wonderful things, but again, not something that we have a great deal of our students participating in. Financial literacy. They gave the examples of DECA, a student-led business, being an entrepreneur, or developing a personal budget. If all students were able to develop a personal budget in personal financial responsibility class, we could easily check this one off, but we would need more guidance from the state on whether or not that was acceptable. And then a digital competency would be being on the robotics team or getting a computer science credential. Again, we do have several students who do that and participate in that. However, it's not going to meet the needs of all 700 of our students. After students complete those initial 20 credits, they have to accumulate 20 more by the time they graduate as a senior. At least 2 credits have to come from math and 4 more have to come from English. So by the end of their high school career, all students will take 3 years of math and 4 years of language arts, which is what we have currently in our graduation model. We have no objection to this. After that, though, students can pick essentially whatever they want. And while that flexibility can be a beneficial thing for some students, it also seems to lack a lot of rigor. Students only having to take 2 years of science, students only having to take about a year and a half of social studies, students not being pushed to explore things like CTE or world languages is an area of concern for us. And it almost feels like this new Flex 40 diploma has a lot less rigor than our current Core 41. Additionally, students can earn bonus points under this model for certain things like work-based learning, dual credit, AP, or hitting the qualifying score on the SAT or ACT. So how does this compare to the old Core 40? There's still 4 years of language arts that are required. There are still 3 years required of math. However, the only course that is required is Algebra 1. For science, there are now only 2 years required instead of 3 and no specific classes. For social studies, they only have to take U.S. history and government. They no longer have to take economics or world geography and world history. They no longer have to have 5 credits out of the directed electives, and that's going to severely impact our staffing in those areas. And in PE, it drops from 3 to 2 credits, which also will impact our staffing in that department as well. Now, the Indiana GPS Diploma Plus is a significant change from the academic and technical honors diplomas that we are used to. In order to meet the requirements of the GPS Diploma Plus, students have to have a work-based learning experience. And that would involve having a work-based learning class at least one semester during their high school career. We see a couple of different issues with this. First off, we're not sure if that has to be during the school year or if it could be during the summer, which is when a lot of our students find employment rather than building it into their schedule. The second thing that we have concerns about is transportation. All of our students who participate in work-based learning must have their own vehicle to get to those job sites, and that isn't something that is feasible for all of our families. In addition to doing work-based learning, students also have to check off something from Component 3. That can include a credential of value based on CTE coursework. It can include an apprenticeship, completing the Indiana College Core, which is 30 credits worth of AP and dual credit over the course of their high school career, being an AP Scholar with distinction, which is taking 5 AP classes and scoring a 3 or higher on the test, or doing a Cambridge or IB option, which is something that we don't have here at Lake Central. Our concern with this Diploma Plus is that it is too rigorous and almost unattainable for our students. To give you an example, last year we had around 40 students who managed to become an AP Scholar with distinction. And that is definitely something that they worked incredibly hard for and deserve to be recognized for. But if you look at the numbers of the students in each grade who achieved academic or technical honors under the old diploma model, that 40 is a significant drop from where we were at. Typically, we would have 200 to 300 students who would achieve an academic or technical honors diploma while they were in high school. And so this new Diploma Plus is going to shut the door for a lot of students who would have achieved that higher diploma level if we had stuck with the previous models for the diploma. Again, we don't understand why they are making this so much more rigorous. So the timeline and next steps for this process is that we're currently in spring and public comment period 1. And if you'd like to give feedback, the QR code that you can scan to do so is right there on the screen. They will take all of that feedback, revise their plans, and then put the new proposal out and have a second period of public comment in the summer. And then their goal is to adopt these new rules either by late summer or by early fall. So these are the questions and concerns we've come up with at Lake Central. And again, no one is trying to tell you how to feel about these changes. If there's things on here that you thought were positive, please give them feedback about that. If there's other things on here that you thought were negative, please give them feedback on that as well. But in our mind, some questions and concerns that we have are first and foremost, how will we track all of the competencies? Not only is that going to be incredibly challenging for our counselors, but it also will be for our students and parents as they try to remember, did I do 3 of the 4? Did I do 3 of the 6? Have I met the external verification on this particular area? They said during the State Board of Education presentation that their goal was to make things easier to understand with this new diploma model, but we feel this actually makes it much more complicated for our students and our families. Are all of the competencies necessary? As we've said, some of them will be very difficult for students and families to achieve over the course of their high school career, while they also are trying to complete their classes and earn credit. How will the competencies factor into credits and GPAs? And aligned with that, how will higher education respond to this new format? Have Indiana colleges like IU and Purdue been at the table and part of this conversation? Will they be responsive to this? Or is it something that's going to be difficult for us to transition to with our higher ed partners? How will it impact scholarship opportunities? There are many scholarships that look for students to have certain GPAs, and not knowing how competencies will factor into calculating those makes us concerned that perhaps that could have a negative impact on our students earning scholarship opportunities. And how will out-of-state institutions respond to this diploma if Indiana is the first one to move to this? It can be very competitive for students to get into various colleges and universities, and we definitely don't want to have them behind their peers in other states because of the switch to this new diploma. Why is there a move away from global perspectives? Again, they are not requiring any foreign languages or any sort of world geography or world history courses in this new model. Why does the GPS regular diploma now seem less rigorous? There's one less year of science. There's about a year and a half less of social studies. They can choose to do that, but I feel that students from other states will be asked to have those when they graduate, and now Indiana is moving away from that. It's definitely beneficial in some spots to give students more flexibility, but for our students to be well-rounded and competitive with their peers, there may be certain requirements that are missing from this new model. Why has the GPS Plus diploma on the flip side become so unattainable compared to the old academic and technical honors diplomas? It is alarming to think that we are going to go from 200 or 300 students achieving the academic and technical honors diplomas to possibly only 40 to 50 being able to achieve the GPS Plus. How will schools staff for this? We know which classes are required under the old model, and we staff according to that. With this new model and students having so much more flexibility instead of required courses, it's going to make us difficult to plan for that. And in Indiana, there is a teacher shortage, and so we don't want to have to cut a staff member one year and then a couple years later have to go back and try to fill that when it's becoming more and more difficult for us to find applicants for these positions. Some groups of students will no doubt struggle to meet these new requirements. They may struggle because of the tracking that's needed for the competencies. They may struggle because of academics. So what can we do with this proposed plan to make things more accessible for all of our students? And why the quick timeline? Again, the current 7th graders will be in high school in the fall of 2025. That's only a little over a year away, which means that we don't have much time to prepare and get things in place for this. If we need to offer a class like computers at the middle school level, we need to know that now so we can get that curriculum in place. So again, we do feel like these proposed changes are very significant, and we feel that the more people who gives feedback before they go and make a revision to the plan, that the better off we will be. So if people have time to scan the QR code that you see on the screen and weigh in with the Department of Education, we would greatly appreciate our Lake Central families doing so. Thank you.